began to look, because I'm in Tornado Alley, for a tornado shelter, and for the price of them, they're only like, you know, a foot underground or whatever. They're not good for radiological events, biological events, chemical events. You bury them 10 feet under the ground, well, then you're really protected, because I live on 9 acres, to be technical, or I guess about 9.5, outside Austin, Texas. And I've started looking, and I found Atlas Shelters. And they're not a sponsor yet, but I'm trying to get them as one. But the real reason this is happening is I'm shopping around for an underground bomb shelter that doubles as a tornado shelter, because I'm in Tornado Alley. I mean, they hit us all the time. Kind of ends at about Austin, but killed 30-something people in Gerald. It's crazy. And this is a short segment, but Ron Hubbard has been one of the pioneers of the big, pretty ornate steel doors you see on fancy houses. And he's the big name on national TV shows, you name it, with really, I don't call them luxury, but you know, beautiful. In fact, I don't mean to turn this into a plug for his stuff. I've just got him on to talk about it. But the reason he's here is to talk about the fact that he's selling out of these things. He's building them as fast as he can, big ones, little ones, you name it. Sold out of the big ones. He was on, got rid of all, you know, of his brochures, you name it. But the point is, he was on the TV show just a week or so ago with us, and got a huge response. But the reason I've got him here in Texas, because he lives here in Texas part of the time, he's out in California, he is a Texan, is because I'm looking at one and trying to get him out to my house, because it's rock out there, to see about putting one in. So I thought, why not do an interview about this and see if TV viewers are interested like I am. And that is indeed what happened. People went crazy over it. Now, we're about to go to break here. Long segments coming up. Ron Hubbard of Atlas Shelters, atlassurvivalshelters.com is the website. And again, we can show his site and kind of show people what he does inside of these. But you were confirming what a lot of our other expert guests, like Joel Skousen, who's, you know, the best-selling author of The Secure Home and the rest of it, he is saying that it's the elites building them under their houses. They want them where they're not known, like in Denver and places, and that there's a huge upsurge the last year. So whatever's coming, financial war, Planet Keebler, you know, I mean, whatever it is, 2012, which I don't believe in, something's going on. To briefly tell us, and thanks for coming in, and I know you won't talk about your customers, but you know, obviously government, rich people, you were telling me off air it's exploded. Why are they telling you they're doing this?
Well, if you ask 10 different people, you're going to get 10 different answers. But the answer that I seem to get, that I kind of buy into, is coming from scientists. They believe that solar flares and radiation showers are going to be coming in towards the end of the year, and it's sitting there listening to them. It's scientific. I've kind of bought into that. Plus, I don't trust our government. I don't like what's going on out there, and I'm just prepared for anything. So that's why I call them an
And I know you're nervous about this. You didn't even want to come on air. I twisted your arm into TV. I mean, are you glad you came in? Because you've done tape stuff for Discovery Channel and, you know, all those big shows. But, I mean, here you are live now, so don't be nervous.
You put me on the spot.
No, but thanks for coming in. I mean, I know you were going to be in South Texas, so thanks for flying here.
I appreciate it.
No, it's just that, I mean... So they're telling you for that reason. Why else are they telling you?
People buy shelters because they want to be secure. They want some safety. If you buy insurance in case you're going to have an accident, you have the peace of mind. People are buying shelters because they want peace of mind. If something happened right now and you had to go underground for 14 days, where would you go, Alex? You don't have an answer to that, do you?
No.
So there's going to be the haves and the have-nots. The people we always hear about, zombies out there, well, those are the people that don't have shelters, don't have food, don't have water, okay? Well, the people that have the shelters are the non-zombies. These are the people that are going to be the survivors.
All right, stay there and break this down when we come back. The difference between a tornado shelter and a bomb shelter, a fallout shelter like the types you have. And again, the fact that the elite are buying these as fast as you can make them. Why is that happening? I mean, all I know is they're doing it.
Do you understand how dark it is? How far down the line we are? How late it is?
Again, I did drag Ron in there. That's why I was thanking him earlier. He thought I was saying that he wasn't doing a good job. He said no to Jay Leno's show. He's on Storage Wars, Doomsday Preppers. He's got shows coming out on Decoded, Shipping Wars. Why are you, of all the manufacturers, I guess you're the biggest and most, why are you so hot? I mean, you're telling me about how many TV shows, you name it, are trying to get you on. And how was I able to get you in here? I guess because I'm going to buy a shelter?
Well, I like you, first of all, and I listen to you. But the reason I'm popular right now is because I took what is conceived as a bomb shelter, which is something doom and gloom, and I've turned it into nicer than most apartments. It's like a home down there. So people that are buying them, I'm trying to convince them that the shelter's not only an emergency shelter, but it's a place that you can use as a retreat, a cabin, a second home.
It's always cool if it's below 7 feet under the ground.
It's 10 feet underground. It stays around 65 degrees. It's nice. It's climate controlled. And it's enjoyable. And they're not claustrophobic. They're quite roomy down there.
Well, I'm going to try to get one of the big roomy ones. But by the way, we crashed your website. We've got it up on a version that we haven't refreshed, or it's crashed. AtlasSurvivalShelters.com has crashed. You ever had your website crash before?
No, that's the first time.
I warned you. I said, now listen, you go on the TV, that's seen by hundreds of thousands. This is 3 million listeners right now. Yeah. So they crash people's websites. Man, I had so many questions to get into here. When you deal with mainstream television, I know sometimes they try to make a joke out of it, but the military's digging in, the establishment's buying. Did you see where they've now bought 1.6 million bullets?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I saw that.
What do you think's going on with that?
Well, they apparently know. You know what? Our government is building shelters for itself, and they're not building shelters for us. And they know something that other governments know, but they're taking care of their citizens. Russia's building 6,000 bomb shelters. America's building bomb shelters, but they're not telling the public that they're building bomb shelters for us.
That's right. Switzerland and Russia and every other country, they build them for their people, and they're very nice and have 2-year supplies and things in them. In the case of Switzerland, and the government gives them hand grenades, rocket launchers, and machine guns by law. You know, in these bunkers, they got to have machine guns at home. Here, though, our fallout shelter. Tell folks about that. The government designates the underground parking garages.
Well, if you get if you're interested in buying a shelter, okay, and you buy a shelter from a company that's registered with the Department of Defense, as I tried to years ago, this is how I ended in the business. You have to register with the government to get a permit for the shelter. And I'm like, well, this is who I'm trying to protect myself from in case our government does go corrupt. I don't want.
So that's how you went from being a big manufacturer of steel doors that you still do into these, because you couldn't get one yourself.
Well, I could get one myself, but you got to register and get a permit with the government. Well, then the government knows where all the caches of food is. I don't want them to know about it. So I make shelters, and I'm not registered with the Department of Defense. So when I do a shelter, nobody's going to know about it but you and me.
What if somebody wants to pull up with their own 18-wheeler, buy one, and then you don't even know where it goes?
I actually don't keep a record of where they go. If somebody came and put a gun to my head right now and said, where are all the shelters? I honestly couldn't tell them to save my life.
How many do you install versus how many just roll off into the mist?
Some people put in their own shelters, and I never see or hear from the people again. Other people want me to fly a contractor out there to install and hook up all the septic and water tanks and the plumbing, the electrical, the cameras.
How many years ago did you start looking for a shelter and then get into the business?
4 or 5 years ago.
And then again, what then spurred you as a successful businessman and builder to want to get one yourself?
Well, first of all, the concrete shelters are $2-3 million. And I don't have $2-3 million to spend on a shelter. So the other shelters I went and looked at, they were basically just boxes buried 2 feet underground. But in the summer here in Texas, it's 106 degrees. You go down there, you're 2 feet under the surface. Well, it's 110 degrees down there. You'll cook. At best, it's a tornado shelter. So the best shelters I found are the deeper. The deeper you go, the better off you are. So I try to at least get all my shelters 10 feet deep so I could control the climate. Plus, they're blast proof. If you have a 1 megaton bomb go off a mile in the air and you're at ground zero in one of my shelters, the way it's designed, you're supposed to survive that.
Man, for folks that don't know, they detonate the hydrogen bombs at about a half mile to a mile to have a large radius flash point. People say, well, what if they drop the bomb on me? The point is, that's why shelters protect you. They don't drop the hydrogen or atomic bombs at ground zero because it doesn't have 1/10 the kill radius.
No, they detonate them at a mile altitude.
If they're bombing Iranian nuke bunkers, they will be bunker busting. Yeah, those will go in.
Those will be ground level, and that will not be inhabited for a long time.
Yeah, it will release. And for those that don't know, it will then all the metal in the ground will then throw off horrible isotopes. which will make Fukushima look like a cakewalk.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, side issue. That's why I want my bunker. In fact, unfortunately, I'm running out of time here.
Yeah.
Anyways,
well,
you going to have time to go out to my house?
There's enough time before the end of the year to get a shelter if you're really interested in one.
Well, I mean, look, they may hit Iran after that, whatever. The world's just so crazy. If the government's buying bunkers and 1.6 million rounds of ammo.
Our government's done. We're prepared. Our government's got the bunkers in. They stopped buying up the air filtration systems months ago.
Yeah, you were telling me that a year or so ago.
You couldn't get the air. Yeah, you couldn't get the air. Government's buying them up. Now you can get the air system, so they're prepared. So now they're getting the food. They bought a billion rations of food. They're buying all this. They're buying all the ammunition.
I don't think it's 2012, bro. They're getting ready for World War III.
Well, I've always known that Israel needs to take care of Iran, and if they don't, we got to do something. And the reprisals is going to be hell to pay. So,
but I mean, if Iran gets a nuke, Israel's got 400 of them. I mean, they've got anti-missile systems. I mean, why start the war? Former Secretary of Defense Gates says we shouldn't do that. Says it'll be a catastrophe.
We have to. We have to eliminate the threat. If Obama doesn't do it, Romney will, if he's elected.
Do you think then the threat goes down if Romney gets elected?
Well,
I think it goes up.
Iran has to be dealt with. There's no ifs, ands, or buts around it. We got to deal with him.
Well, I know this. If I
now or deal with him once they got the nuke.
If I wasn't, look. All I know is that why does Iran keep saying rhetoric like they're going to blow this and that up? I mean, it's like asking for it.
Well, that's how crazy they are over there.
Well, about 75% of their people in international polls are actually pro-America. They hate their government.
I know.
But now they're going to hate us.
You don't see the ones with the money and the concern. Actually, there's a good market for me in Iran, but I can't build shelters in Israel and sell them to Iran. So the only place I can build shelters over there is in Jordan, and then I can sell them to Iran and Israel.
That's right. You were telling me huge operations now with Israel.
I'm working on it right now. Yeah, those people really have something to fear. That's going to be a good market, but I don't think there's time for me to get in there right now.
That's what you told me on the phone. Yeah,
it's too late. I've told him I think it's too late. The bombs will be flying before I can get over there and get set by December.
And just since I've been twiddling my thumbs the last 2 weeks, you sold out all the big ones. How long till you can make me one of the big ones?
Since you're special, I'll get you one before the end of the year. But if people don't get their orders in now, it's going to be tough to. And I can't guarantee I can get everybody.
I just can't believe that we've legitimately got to talk about this.
I know. Isn't it?
I mean, I'm getting to the point where my wife's like, we got to have a bomb shelter. I mean, the
people that come in scare me now because they all, some have got these crazy ideas, but it's the ones that are legitimate, that are in the military and that are scientists, that they tell me the reasons why, and I go, you know what, you just scared me, and they give me little bumps on my arm. It's like, you know what, I thought I was doing something that was hopefully never needed, but you really make me feel like I'm going to need this sooner than later. I hope I never have to use the shelter other than the hunting cabin I'm using it for now. But we'll find out soon.
Well, that's the thing. It is like a second home or an addition, because when it is below 7 feet, you bury them at 20 feet, so the top's 10 feet. Yeah. I mean, it goes with what's it called, the thermal line.
The thermal break.
So it stays about 65 degrees?
Like a wine cellar. That's why wine cellars are buried like that. They keep the wine at that constant temperature, and that's the same with the shelters. As long as the air is moving, you'll maintain 65-degree temperature or thereabout.
And these are less than 1/10 one of the big concrete shelters.
Oh, yeah, those concrete shelters.
Well, hopefully your site goes back up so people can look at them, atlassurvivalshelters.com.
Do make sure they click on the shelter models, because it seems like my website's I've been told it's hard to navigate, but on the homepage there's really good pictures.
No, it's not hard to navigate, it's just big.
Well,
that's why I call it.
I have over 1,000 pictures on my website. I don't leave any imagination to the mind. I show how they're installed. I show the septic systems, the battery systems, the generators, the air filtration systems, blast hatches, escape.
Well, that was why I ended up getting a hold of you, because I always search out whoever the research and reviews say is the best, and you're the guy that builds something that's really livable, not a death trap. I mean, if nukes go off and you got to stay in there a month and a half, nobody's staying in some little storm shelter for a month and a half.
It's nicer than an RV. It's 10 feet wide in there. You've got over 7-foot ceilings. It doesn't feel like a bomb.
Guys, I know we saved some of the site, luckily, before it went down. Can you put some of those up? Some of those graphics we've got just showing the different designs.
Look at the pictures, all the families.
Where you bury it under the house.
In there.
Now, continuing with this, Wow. So how many of these can you manufacture a day?
If I really ramp it up, 2 or 3 a day. I'm ramping it up right now. I'll just put it that way. I can't tell you how many are in the ground, where they're at. I mean, that's confidential. I wouldn't even tell you. It's just, I just hope I can meet the demand. And
all this because you're a successful builder and you wanted one and they wanted to register you to get one.
Well, that was part of the reason, but there was other features. They only had one way in and one way out. Well, my shelters have one way in and 2 ways out. They have a back door. They have an escape tunnel that if somebody found your hatch and tried to block you, you could go out through a tunnel that comes out to the back of the shelter and comes up underground through what's called a reverse hatch that opens down, and then you could dig your way up to the surface. So I wanted a way to escape if I got trapped by...
Well, that's why I like that. That's why I actually went to you, is that I want to be able to defend it. And I know you have camera systems, you name it. But then there's also the fact is, as you said, the escape hatch goes to where they don't know because there's a foot or so of dirt and grass. I mean, that's totally concealable.
And if you ever use that, unfortunately, somebody's fighting for their life. You know, it may be you, it may be them. But it gives you a chance to defend yourself or escape if somebody found your hatch and was trying to break into it. Now, the other thing, if somebody found the hatch, between the hatch and the living quarters, there's a room, this airtight room. I call it the decontamination room. It's not truly a decontamination room where you go down there and undress and get all the germs off and go through an air vent. It's actually, it's an airlock between the blast hatch and the living quarters. So if you had to run a generator down there, you could. Or if you had dogs and they were going all over the place, you can put them in that room. See, that's another thing. Where are you going to bring your dogs? If you have to go down, you're going to leave your dogs up top? Well, I have dogs. I want to bring my dogs down. So I wanted to have a room where the dogs could live. And when they're pooping all over the place, I can close the door and it's airtight. I don't have to smell their, you know what. So I added the decontamination room, and I added the escape tunnel to the basic living quarters, and then I wanted storage, lots of storage. So I put 3 feet of storage underneath the floor. So when you're living in the shelter, you're not living among a bunch of boxes and water bottles and whatever. Everything is under the floor, and it stays clean up top. So I like that.
I like it, too. That's why. So what happens? I guess you give them the specs. It gets shipped out here, and then I have to blast because of the Texas ground, the limestone.
I've got 12 standard models of shelters, anywhere from 20 feet up to 51 feet, anywhere from $35,000 up to $86,000, which is my 51-footer. But another thing that's neat about the shelters, as you saw, they have a master bedroom on one end. You got a 22-foot den in the middle with a kitchen. Then you got private guest quarters, and then you got a private bathroom. So it feels more like a manufactured house than a pipe that I've turned into a bomb shelter.
And you also found from the studies, this is the government certified type of metal. That way, it's found even in blast, it moves. It's one of the strongest structures out there.
I'm using galvanized corrugated pipe, the same stuff that runs under the highways. Now, the engineer's testing shows that it's rated up to 42 feet of dirt cover. It's got up to a 200-year lifespan. But if you put it...
And this system was what they used in the nuke testing. Tell me about that.
Yeah. Oak Ridge Laboratories in 1948 to 52, I believe it was doing the nuke testing out in the Nevada desert. Well, they had to crawl in something, so they buried galvanized culvert pipe, and they went down there and set off the nukes. So as the ground slap came through, the shelter moved, but it's designed for earthquakes and movement. That's why they're designed the way they are. So they said, hey, this would make a great shelter. So they just took it, and then they just put it underground. You crawl in the pipe. Well, I had the idea of just go ahead and put in the floors, laminate them, put removable center boards so you can put your food under the floor, put bunk beds in there, and then I started fancying them up. I say, you know what? If I'm going to use this on the weekends, I don't want to sleep with a bunch of other people. So I put a master bedroom on one side with a door and put the
well, here's my thinking. Here's my thinking for it. Let's say there's a 20% chance there's going to be nuclear fallout from blowing up those reactors, which they admit when they blow the reactors up, it's going to make, again, Chernobyl and all of it with Fukushima look like child's play. And our media just raises the radiation level and says what's safe now. I've actually looked, because I love my daughters and my son, to sending my wife for a year to the southern hemisphere. And I guess I'm just going to take one for the team and stay here. Cancer rates will go up. I've had nuclear physicists on, especially if you get a hot particle. That stuff blows around and around the world. That's why the northern hemisphere has more than doubled the radiation because of nuclear testing in the northern hemisphere in the last 60 years. So my issue is, especially in that first month, do I send them, get them on a plane and send them to the southern hemisphere? I guess something like Chile is what we're looking at. I'm serious. Chile is about the best in South America. Do I send my wife and kids to Chile try to talk some family was going with them so I can stay here?
How are you going to get them back?
Or do I, for a month, we go into the bunker? I mean, at least put them in there and they can, because, I mean, it's serious. This is not a joke. But let's say it's more than 20% chance it's going to happen. My issue is down the road, I sell my little farmhouse and everything. I see this as a major improvement with all sorts of folks that want a concealed, blast-proof bunker that's fully livable. I mean, I just see it as a win-win-win, and I've decided to pull the trigger.
Well, it's a long-term investment. Whether you use it or not, the shelter's going to last for many, many generations. So I think everyone that listens to your show would agree that something's coming down the highway one day. Have you ever asked them, do you think America will be here in 100 years? What's your thought on that? I mean, I get asked that, and I'm like, well, I sure hope it is.
I don't know. I just got guns, storable food, and all the rest of it, and I'm drinking my own Kool-Aid here. I mean, look, I've got life insurance, too, even though there probably won't be banks if it all collapses.
Well, your shelter is your new life insurance. It's the kind of that's the kind of life insurance if you die, your family's taken care of. This is the kind of life insurance that keeps your family alive and you.
No, I know, but I mean, I'm just here because it's interesting radio. I mean, again, I said, hey, let's have you on TV so you can answer my questions on air. Kind of kill two birds with one stone. I do that a lot. I promote whatever I'm looking at, whatever I think's interesting. Now, you're here on this show. Once you're off, there's going to be 100 questions that I had remembered I wanted to ask you, thinking about you coming into town, but here you are.
Well, the question I get asked the most, how long can I live in your shelter? Well, how long can you live in your house? As long as the food and the water last, you can live in the shelter. And how claustrophobic is it? It's much more roomier than an RV. If you're living in an RV, those are, 7.5, 8 feet wide? Well, this is 10 feet wide. How long do I need to live down there if a bomb goes off? Well, it depends what kind of bomb.
Answer those questions when we come back. Alex Jones here with a message to fellow freedom lovers. The prognosis for the entire planetary economic system runs from bad to worse. The globalist model is to shut down societies and starve patriots out until they acquiesce to the global takeover. That's why we've assembled the most vital and important preparedness items at InfoWarsShop.com. These are items that I did research on, that I personally use. You've got the Life Straw, so you can turn fetid water into safe water anywhere you go. The K-Tor hand crank generator to charge up key equipment during power outages or out in the field. Strategic Relocation, 3rd edition by Joel Skousen. When Disaster Strikes by Matthew Stein. ThyroSafe, used by Homeland Security to protect yourself during any radiological event. Hand crank shortwave AM/FM radios. Everything that we've researched and found to be the best is available at InfoWarsShop.com, and your purchase makes our InfoWar possible. We're getting prepared. Are you? InfoWarsShop.com. Ron Hubbard is our guest. It's funny. I gave the number out. The website's down. AtlasSurvivalShelters.com, and his phone started ringing off the hook. He's got it forwarded. You're the guy, even though you have a pretty big company, you field almost all the phone calls, even when you're out of town. So when people call 855-4-BUNKERS, 855-4-BUNKERS, you can answer their questions. But don't call too much, folks, because I've got questions. How long are you in Texas?
I'll be here till tomorrow. Now I'm heading back to California.
You're here in Austin till tomorrow. Well,
yeah.
I mean, tonight's, I guess, the night. I probably need to get you out to my house.
Yeah.
But I mean, I've got a creek that runs through my property. And you were saying, well, I mean, the house is built on one side. And I guess that is the only issue is you don't want to build where it's a floodplain.
The concern is the water table. You can't put a shelter in a water table. So since we dig a 21-foot hole and we put 12 inches of crushed gravel on the bottom for kind of like a leach field, and then we put the shelter in, then 10 foot of dirt on top of it. We got to be able to dig down 21 feet, not hit a water table. Otherwise, you're going to have to go to what's called a watertight shelter, which I make those as well. But those are made out of smooth steel. See, watertight is like a submarine. Submarine's watertight. You can submerge it and it won't leak. The galvanized corrugated pipe, those are what's called waterproof. That means you can get them wet, but they're not watertight. So if you submerge them, you can sprout some leaks. So when I have the pipe rolled from the manufacturer, I'm probably the only person that does this, I have them squirt silicone in the joints. So it's waterproof as I can. So I'm trying to make it watertight. But if you put it where water's going to creak in, you can sprout a leak in a corrugated pipe shelter. So. Yeah,
that's why we have to have it looked at. I've also thought about just somewhere in the area buying another little piece of property that's high and then putting it in there.
Well, you could...
See, that's what we looked at, because talking to Joel Skousen and other experts, they said, well, if you have to live closer into the city, then you've got a place that's really rural and then that's where you put your hidden stuff. But then I'm concerned about getting there if all Hades breaks loose.
Well, I mean, you can get there by bike or you can walk. I mean, you got to have a bug-out plan. And I'm sure your house isn't that far from where we're at right now, so you can make it. I mean, a person can walk 40, 50 miles a day easy. It's just when you know something bad is happening, you need to get to that shelter quick before the civil unrest starts, which it will be within 48, 72 hours.
No, I mean, I'm about 20 miles. I'm about 20 miles outside town.
You can walk 20 miles.
I know, but my issue is if there's not a place there to stick one of these, then, my issue is I get a little piece of property in a farmhouse even further out in the middle of nowhere, because they say you want to be off the main roads, and I'm pretty close to a main road. But then I guess I can bury a shelter out there, because if you're in a...
Well, I'd put you in one of my prepper communities that I'm starting, but I don't have one near Austin right now because of the limestone is so hard to dig in. So I'm looking towards West Texas, where I can dig deep.
You've already got one in Arizona?
Arizona.
You won't say where?
No, I can't tell anybody. You'd have to buy a shelter, then you'd have to be taken there by blindfold. And if you don't want to be part of it, you're not going to even know where it is to get back to it. You got to leave your cell phone, so there's no way to track it. I'm protecting the secrecy of my customers. There's no way I'm going to... You're
an interesting guy. I got to get... Wow, man, I tell you. Briefly, because we said we'd answer, and this hour is almost over, Mr. Hubbard, get into blast. I mean, generally, what is it, about a month and a half with the average hydrogen bomb that goes off that you need to stay underground?
No, there's this 10-7 rule that every 7 hours, 90% of the fallout is gone. So in 49 hours, 99% of the fallout is gone. So people say, how long do I got to stay underground? Is it 2 weeks? Well, if the fallout is 99% evaporated, you can come out in 2 days. I mean, Hiroshima is inhabitable. Nagasaki is inhabitable today because it was an airburst. So the fallout that went with the prevailing winds went out to sea, as far as I know. And the people started living there right afterwards, immediately. So it depends on the type of bomb that goes off. It depends on what you can do.
All right. Well, I got a lot of questions for you. We got to go shoot the nightly news. I've got another guest on. I'll try to get you on that one. Thank you so much for spending time with us.
You're welcome.
Wow. Ask yourselves, what are you doing in this time of great challenge? What are you doing to unlock minds?